For years, people have been asking me about that documentary. And for years, I've kept my mouth shut. They told a story, but it wasn't mine. But what if I told you the version you saw wasn't the one that was supposed to be made? This was the documentary they were supposed to make before things changed, before they edited their film, to tell the story they wanted to tell. I'm done staying quiet. It's time to set the record straight. I'm sitting down with one of the original investors behind this documentary. This is the real story behind the documentary. So let's get into it. All right, it's been over 25 years here, and it's time to fucking at long last address this thing, like my friends like Frank here have been telling me to do for a long time. And I thought, what better way than to talk to somebody who was there and saw all of it and knows all of it from back then to now. How long have we fucking known each other?
Well, it was interesting. I was thinking about that today, and since we watched or I rewatched the documentary last night. Hadn't seen it in a long time.
Yeah.
But I met you guys after you filmed, because I was at Dublin's, and it was actually Fosse who met Taylor at Dublin's.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of end things. So I'm guessing it was probably 97, somewhere in there.
97 is when I made the deal. So you were
97, 98. And I don't know if you'd already come back from filming it or you were on your way. I know it was before you recorded the album. Because by that time we were good. By that time we were friends.
I'll tell you what. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because we both just rewatched the doc.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that in a minute. But what did you feel? What were your thoughts the first time you saw it? Like, go back, take us back there, and you invest money into this documentary when we're all friends. Everybody loves each other. We're all getting along.
Yeah. Well, how I got involved with it was right before you guys went to the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
Mark and Tony had run out of money,
mm-hmm.
and I don't think there was any room for plane tickets and hotel stay, and they needed money. And they needed fast. And so Todd Fosse and I went in together on it, and I've got to find the contract. It's somewhere, but it's I think we give them $5,000.
Okay.
And basically paid for their share of the trip.
Yeah, you didn't pay for their room and board because they stayed with us. I mean, CB had to track down some place to stay, which was super expensive during Con. So we just let them stay with us.
But so that was, and basically what it was is we were going to get a tiny little bit of profit participation, but we were just kind of helping the thing out. It was at a time when I was starting to make pretty good money doing commercials,
okay.
And so I covered Todd's in my half of it, and then we went to So that was how we got involved.
Okay.
So fast forward, over the next couple of years, and they had finished, and they were being really tight-lipped about it. And
so when was the first time you saw it after they finished?
I saw it. I saw it. I had to go find it in I don't know if it was a theater or how we ended up seeing it, but they wouldn't show it to me because at that point I was on the outside too.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, the last time I actually had a conversation with Tony Montana, he, it was outside of Jay Sloan's, and I just asked him what was going on, and he just flipped the fuck out on me.
Yeah.
And he was just like, "There's no money. There's no money." And I'm like, "I didn't ask you that. Okay. Are you okay?"
Well, go back to that first time that you saw it. When you first saw the doc, when it sort of first came out,
well, I mean,
it was in a theater or whatever. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts after seeing it for the first time?
That they got really pissed off at you guys. Really pissed off because what I invested in versus what they actually made, pretty different movie. Yeah. I mean, it's and it was really interesting to watch it again last night because again, I mean, I haven't probably looked at that movie in 15 years, and to be honest, just because I was kind of so grossed out about how I kind of felt after seeing it the first time. I was like, oh, you guys kind of really did something different here.
Yeah, so it's fun. It's funny, man. Like when you invested, we were all friends, and it was a completely different sort of direction they were going with the project. But it was, documentaries always kind of, you document what's really happening, so you don't have much to do with the truth of it. So, did you feel this was a truthful portrayal of all that happened back then?
I think it was like, clearly some of it's true. I mean, it's filmed, but I think the problem is I don't think it's a true documentary film, because a documentary film would be you're sitting there observing, and they kind of, since they were part of the story, they made themselves a part of it.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my girlfriend tonight, and she was asking me how I was going to feel about coming over here and talking to you about this. And she asked me, I was like, the hardest part about watching that film, in some ways, was like, they so clearly went with an axe to grind on something that, because I remember, there was a lot of joy during that time too. I mean, there was a lot of joy. We had a lot of fun, and they just went, I mean, from everything from the score to this, it was just, like Lena said, like you're actually feeling an impending sense of dread through the entire thing. You're like, holy fuck, this is not, I mean, I wanted to ask you, what did you think of it when you watched it again this long? I mean, like, how did you feel?
It's so strange, because one of the things I hate the worst is seeing wasted talent. And Mark Bryan Smith is talented. I watched it, and it was incredibly effective. The documentary was incredibly good looking. He picked the right shots and the right music and the right heartbeats, and even our music in there. He did an excellent job on something that wasn't, in my opinion, very truthful at all. I saw them creating timelines that didn't exist. Something I responded to in like 1998 was put at the beginning of 97 in response to something totally different, and vice versa. So I had problems with it, truth-wise, but I can see why so many people love it. Like I just did Nerdrotic, Gary Beekler's buddy of mine's podcast, and he loves the documentary, and we talked about it, and I was like, okay, well, I mean, the history is the same. The history doesn't change. The facts are the facts. We got a record deal, a movie deal, lost them both, resurrected them both, went and did our movie, our album, our way, which is a pretty heavy accomplishment. So I asked him, okay, well, how'd I do that? And he goes, I don't know. How'd you do it? I'm like, you watched the documentary. You should fucking know the answer to that question. So I think that there was times where they provided very little, if any, context, and tried to skew it towards whatever their agenda was. And that's the part that also is heartbreaking, because they had that story, man. That story. Let me ask you a question. That story, that 2 to 3 years of shooting, what you knew and saw that they shot, and all the things that happened, do you think that would be a valuable story, or an interesting story for people to see? The real one, I mean.
I mean, I think if they could have done a blend of both a little bit, because again, you're trying to get things done, and you guys had to throw blows, to get it done. But at the same time, it did happen. You did make it. You have an album. Maybe it didn't work out the way that you hoped with the music, and that was too bad, because it was a good album. But the movie is clearly, has legs. And so it's, and again, I mean, like, look, I mean, I've done half a dozen movies that nobody will ever see ever again, and then I'll have one weird one that will,
you can't
like,
really
and
tell.
you're just like, you have no idea what the audience is going to respond to. You have no idea, and then all of a sudden you're like,
holy shit!
Like, oh shit! 20 years later, we're still doing this. I was thinking about again though. So like when they did it, because the hard part was when they pitched me the document, when they pitched Todd and I on that. the movie had been shot, and they had put together like this 40-minute trailer.
Yeah.
High action, high fun, fast music, some of your guys' music, everything like that. But it was more of a, hey, look at this. This is happening. This actually can happen to somebody. Here's where we're going, and this. And one of the reasons why I did was like, yeah, this could be in everybody's film school. Like you could put out like this can happen, because there's so many roadblocks put up for anybody in this industry, that it almost sometimes feels like, like it's on a different planet from you entirely. So here's this thing, and it's you, and you've made it happen. You wrote a script, it worked out, and everything went from there. I mean, it was crazy, but
it's funny. This is one of the cool things that we just found. I never thought I'd see this goddamn thing again, but the Mark Smith and Tony Montana, the documentarians, who were our friends at the time, they made like an 18-minute trailer of year one of 3 years, right? They made this trailer to get investors, and they offered an investment opportunity to all our friends and their families, and it's like people in the sort of inner circle, in order to raise money to finish their doc. And I never thought I'd see this again. But this was how they got investors. You probably saw it, back then too, Frank.
Well, that was why we did put money into it. Mm. It wasn't until probably a year and a half later that it turned into something else.
Now, keep in mind, we're going to show you this. We just found it in the archives. We're going to show you this, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. But keep in mind that this was done during year one, when everybody was friends and everything was gravy. So, Sage, go ahead and...
I was a bouncer. You have to sit outside the door. So I'd bring a notebook with me and write until somebody got into a fight. Fucking guy calls me up the other day, said you made the South China Herald. South China. People in South China are reading about us, Fucks up with that. I can't believe we're going to be on the cover of a magazine. And I got to share it with two guys I don't even really like.
Troy, your script is so unbelievable. I don't know if you should film me blowing them.
Yeah, baby, yeah! Yes! Officers on the P-Mount lot. They said it couldn't be done. I wrote it, I'm directing it. We're doing the soundtrack, my band, The Brood.
Shit is happening. Welcome to the world of rock and roll, baby, yeah!
It was just give them, I know it's a big commercial, but give them something that they can relate to all the way through the song.
What I really lie awake at night and think about is this brood band going to get a record deal? I mean, are they going to be able to go to the next step? Are other people going to understand what this band can do? I get more satisfaction out of that than anything else, you know, except playing the guitar.
Brood's big break, baby.
First fucking time in Hollywood history they're signing a band sight unseen.
What's that?
Oh, here she comes, and she says,
My father wanted to have a doctor in the family, and I called him up and told him, you know, me and my brother are moving to L.A. to be in a rock band. The thing that pisses Taylor off the most in his entire life is the fact that I'm his older brother. There's nothing I can do about that. Would I be 100% right, Mom, when I say I'm his older brother and he's my younger brother? I mean, I think I would. And that's just as simple as this situation is. He can't handle that fact.
It's hard getting used to that whole situation with him. Because, to me, he's just Troy. He's my brother.
I think he'll just quit the band. I think he'd be more content being a fucking bartender the rest of his fucking life rather than admit even once that I'm right and he's wrong.
We're very different people. Like, he makes a lot of decisions that I would never have made.
I am right and he is wrong. Big time.
I'm just trying to think of kind words to describe what could be a very ugly experience.
If they weren't brothers, they wouldn't be friends.
The tininess inside of him, the sibling rivalry bullshit, can get out and fuck things up. Is he singing?
Were you guys singing?
Sorry. What the fuck you doing? Picking your ass in there? Pay attention, fuckstick.
I didn't know we were recording, fuckball.
Why do I want to give this kid money and power? There's the chance that it's going to mellow him out, yeah, and he's going to be able to just sit there and focus on being a musician and a man, and there's a chance that it'll make him happy.
I'd have to say he's really happy, but knowing Taylor, he might be a little jealous.
But there's also a chance that he'll become, at that point, my worst fucking nightmare. I don't know if I'm willing, and I'm afraid to give him what I've been trying to give him the entire time. I'm afraid of it.
Hopefully we'll reach a point somewhere down the line where it's just, you know, we can be more friends than just people who have to love each other.
Do some serious shit here.
to the brood! Fuck you all into all the fucking... Mississippi whiskey!
Let the corruption begin.
One thing I like about Troy is his tremendous desire to keep the friendships and the relationships that he has had previous to whatever success he's had.
Troy is a very good leader. He entirely welcomes and internalizes our input.
This group seems to do what they say. So therefore, there is great trust. And when someone says, I'm going to do something, it's going to get done.
I put my friends who are good at this in their proper niche because I can. And I want to, and I think it'd be more valuable for the whole crew if we surround ourselves with people who love us and are good at what they do.
You know, love working with people that are good people and are your friends and leave all the bullshit out.
It's fate. There's something up there watching over all of us right now. It's really crazy, but it's cool.
This is the first time in my life I'm really doing something that's meaningful. That is going to affect my whole life.
You realize that you don't have a bunch of people around you handling shit. You're still doing it yourself. When we get that fucking record deal, it's still just going to be our dicks and balls, just like it is now. I'd be proud to have my friends go. That guy right there, he's a friend of mine.
Do you think that Katzenberg and Spielberg and Geffen go out and hang out at a fucking bar every night? to the left, to the left. I got out of the car and I fell flat on my face.
We drink ourselves stupid.
Now,
Still show up.
this is a business that will tolerate all sorts of behavior.
I'm hungover. What up? Success has nothing to do with how you live your life, really. You got the goods, you got the goods. No matter what kind of a fuck up you are.
After the vacation, we must assess the damage.
I drink a lot, but you know, it's just what the hell else you got to do?
You've been there sometimes in meetings with some of the biggest guys in this town, don't you? I sit down there. I got drunk the night before. I'm hungover as hell. I'm wearing my overalls. These guys are all in suits. I look like a mess. I'm smoking. You want a cigarette?
Miramax threw in everything and the kitchen sink and the rest of the bar. Miramax chairmen are now negotiating to give Duffy part ownership of the bar where he once worked.
Harvey turned to Troy. He said, "What do I got to do to get this movie?" And then Troy looked at him and he said, "How about a kiss on the lips?" And there was silence in the room. Harvey looked around. Everyone was waiting. He looked at me. I said, "Harvey, you want the movie?" Then Troy stood up, spread his arms out, and Harvey stood up, and they embraced each other and kissed. But not on the lips.
Project is coming along great. This is supposed to be a hot week for us. Hopefully by the end of the week we'll have the whole thing fucking wrapped up.
We went on a whirlwind of dinners with William Morris, celebrating.
And if I'm successful at music and film at the same time, right out of the starting gate, that will be something that no one has ever done before. You all got fucking guns. I want to see them.
Who the fuck are you?
They got guns. They got guns,
This is a gun. This is a gun.
What's his routine?
It's getting real.
I need a cigarette.
Hey, this isn't our audition.
She needs a fucking cigarette.
That is just fucking terrific. I mean, we got like the best guy in the business, Harvey, behind this fucking thing, and he swept the Oscars last year. Even if Miramax accepts that offer, we're looking at $750,000, about $700 for this kid, right?
How the fuck does they give you $15 million for a movie?
It was almost so foreign that it was not real. Yeah, so I received my first death threat. I'm quite shaken.
We're real people. We don't fuck around with people. And these people are getting really used to being fucked with.
I never really intended on being a director. I never gone to film school.
And I used to sit home and watch movies and go, fuck, you know, I want to be a part of that.
I'm just a fucking poor kid from Boston, never had a fucking thing in my whole life. And you were the first man to come up and take a vested interest in me and say, this kid's coming with me. And you're a mentor of mine, and I really appreciate it. You think the fucking mentor thing was a little sad?
Nope. I think it takes somebody young and in touch with the shit to really be able to tell the story. And he's obviously on the right page, so.
Action!
If Troy directs a movie half as good as his script, it'll be a fucking amazing movie.
It's real funny, at this point we haven't had a failure yet. And every time I think it's gonna happen, it doesn't. Everybody knows it's the best fucking project in Hollywood. Every fucking actor that reads it goes, oh my Christ.
Supposedly the deal's gonna be happening within like a week. Not that I haven't heard that before.
You know, there's always potential paydays, but they've not locked in, so to say.
While he's doing all his stuff with the movie and everything, I'm left in limbo.
It's at this really weird type of a standstill right now. I mean, what is he really doing? Who is he fighting for? Who is he talking to in the industry right now? If I'm a fucking priority project over at Miramax, what the fuck is he doing?
To try and to get him to do things that are conventional is really trying to it's antithetical to who he is and what he's about.
Now everything's gone fucking haywire with this money thing, with the injection of business into this thing, with his fucking project with Michelle Pfeiffer.
And I'm fucking broke, and I took off of work today to jam. He's fucking got money, and he's, you know, what the fuck? We could be jamming all day today.
Just got an eviction notice, that's all.
Living on the floor at your house.
I'm being sued by my ex-wife, and
I don't know why they reneged on the contract.
It was all just talk. That's it. The longer we sit here talking about it, the more I think that it's just not gonna fucking happen. The status is we no longer have a record deal with Maverick Records. If it can't be salvaged, it can't be salvaged, you know? We'll figure something else out. Months of negotiations and final drafting of a 95-page contract that backed out the 12th hour. Now it's like your behavior and everything you say is under a microscope with everybody, including your friends.
But no, he's got everything figured out. Okay, fine.
Get the fuck out of here, Montana. Get out. Pick your shit and get out.
Troy feels that there are areas that you have to grow up in, and there are changes in your attitude that he wants to see.
I'm not a saint at all. But the last thing I expect to be is judged by my dearest friends.
Getting involved with my friends makes them think they can do all kinds of shit that nobody else would do. There's gonna come times when everybody in this room wants to shoot me dead.
How do you stay from going crazy? How do you keep it together in this business?
And we can't fail because they're all expecting us to. The only way we're going to succeed here, I mean, it seems like it should be getting easier, but it's not. It's getting harder and harder and harder. We're in an area where we have to produce, or we're done.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on that, Frank, looking back?
Well, but again, I think, again, that's still not the movie. That trailer's still not the movie that they made.
Oh, yeah, I know. That was when we were all...
You're still, I mean, clearly they had some animosity going. I mean, it's there already. It's the start of it. It's the start of it is there. But the question is maybe at what, I mean, you can hear him talking. I mean, the key element that I kept hearing all the way through watching the documentary again was money. Money.
Money
And
in there messes things up for sure.
Well, and it sounds like, some of the things I was thinking about was like, did you ask them to quit their jobs? Did you tell them they had to if they're going to film the documentary? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
may have suggested it. I was fucking 24 to 26 years old when did this. I might have suggested something like that. But
that's the part to me. Is like, hey guys, you there's two of you. You guys could have filmed this. You guys didn't take care of yourselves. You have to take care of yourself during this time.
Yeah,
you have to
drill down on that. But what I get from watching this, what I remembered from watching this was the truthful doc that they were going to make. It was just really, I mean, all that stuff happened in there.
Yeah.
When I watched that, there's things that make me cringe, you know?
Yeah.
We were okay with we all knew we weren't saints. So one of the first conversations when they pitched this to us was, hey, you know, we're not choir boys here. So what are you going to do when you get all this fucking edgy footage? And they were like, we're your friends, don't worry, we never fuck you. So we trusted them, and they must have said that to us 100 times over the course of this. And there's nothing sort of more uncomfortable than, you know, getting in a car and driving to a set with a guy, and he's like, oh my God, you're so funny last night, you're drunk, and all the shit you said and did, and you're like, what shit? Don't worry, I got it all on camera.
I'll show you later.
Yeah, and so there was all kinds. This is like an onion with a million layers. We were fighting Hollywood demons without, and fighting our own demons within. Every guy in the crew, all of us had rubs with each other at one point or another over multiple issues. This is a hard thing to do, you know. While Hollywood's knocking you over the head with a nightstick, doing your movie and your album and this documentary, which even though we weren't profit participants in from the very beginning, we had moral kind of ownership of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
This is our story. Our friends are doing our story. And that was part of it too. So it was almost like a pyramid. It's almost like the movie formed the foundation. That was the thing that everyone was relying on.
Right.
And then the music that was going to be in the movie. And then the documentary that was our story of all of it, being sort of the first guys to do both things right out of the gate.
Yeah.
None of us had been, you know.
Well, who was the oldest of you at that point when this all went off? Was it you or was it Gordo? I mean, who's the oldest in the band?
Gordo.
Okay. So he was like 25, 26?
Yeah, probably around there.
I mean,
it's like 3 years older than me.
To me, I just kind of look at that and you're like, again, you know, it's kids. I thought it was something. Tony brought up something in the documentary himself, and he just said it's amazing how well he's handling it.
Yeah.
And again, so my question was like, you looking back at it now, 25 years later, do you think you are handling it well?
Well, what happened. We were successful in what we did, and we got the prize. So I made a lot of the right decisions. But yeah, there was some bad behavior. There was some wrong decisions made.
God, the amount of alcohol. That's the thing I was going to watch you guys, because I'm just sitting there looking at my own self. I'm like, we were all there, and you're like, ooh.
They really focused on the booze and cigarettes, and it was bad. It just was not as bad as this. They really cast a. They upped that by, I'd say, a good 40%. But the thing that I got from that, and this is when we were all friends, because we all watched this and we all okayed it after year one. We had clearly lost the record deal and the movie deal, so tragedy had struck, right? And we were on the spot. We had to perform, and we all watched it. And we were like, that's the real story. That's what's happened up to here. As uncomfortable as it was for, I think, all of us to watch. We're like our friends telling the real story, you know?
Well, and they're, and they're taking, I mean, like the one you just showed there, the conversation with your mom talking about Taylor in the car. And you're like, on any other planet, that would be a personal conversation that would never have been spoken of ever again between you and your mother, but it happened to get filmed and they happened to put it out in the world.
Yeah, and the reason I signed off on that, and so did Taylor at the time, I think, was because they handled it right by not providing what the actual argument was about. It was like their sibling rivalry. Almost everyone knows what that is. There's been brothers in bands that have fights on stage.
Oh.
We all knew what that was.
There's been fights of construction sets where people in just regular businesses, where that's family-run businesses. There's fights.
But so you don't really need to know what the fight was about. What it was the outcome. We hugged it out, moved forward. We all did that in a myriad of ways across the spectrum over the 3 years. And so I felt that they handled that right, as uncomfortable as it was. But I also think they didn't get the actual argument. Whatever me and Taylor were arguing about, I don't think they got that on film, because I think they probably would have used it. But
or why not? Or the same thing as they're sifting through it. They're like, great, here's a bit, here's a bite, here's a bite, here's a bite, here's a bite. Because they were doing very quick editing style, so it wasn't like they unless they had something where they didn't let conversations really run out too often. But
the thing that I noticed about that, the thing that dawned on me watching that, was what the real story was underneath it all. The real story was 7 friends sticking together and getting through this and getting all 3 of their products made for the first time. Mark and Tony weren't fucking filmmakers. They became it when they did the documentary. We weren't musicians. We became it when we formed our band and got a record deal. I wasn't a writer-director. I became one when I wrote a script and directed it. So this was a first for all of us, and the real story underneath Overnight that you can't see by watching the film, but maybe you can see the first footsteps of by watching the 18 minutes you just watched, was 7 friends sticking together. Because look at it like this. When I lost the record deal and the movie deal, they all could have abandoned me. They could have said, you fucked up, you had it all, and now we got nothing, fuck you. They could have left. Everybody could have. And they didn't. We stuck together, and that's how we got this done.
The other thing I think is like, it's probably a little bit hard because, I mean, you know, with the advantage of a little age, is that, you know, to get something like that done, to just stick to it, and B, somebody has to be the driving force.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and look, everybody's got different kinds of skill sets and various strengths. Some of them it's execution, some of it's strategic, some of it's any number of things. But, you know, clearly yours is always execution. You made the thing happen. But your thing was you also brought everybody else along with you, especially in this particular situation. And so people were around, you know, but that in itself must have been kind of an uncomfortable position.
Yeah, it was. And one of the reasons was once you, I was way more open than I should have been. Like, just think of this scenario, you know, a record contract comes in. It's fucking this thick. It's all legalese. Nobody knows it. And 7 guys reading it, including me. None of us know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah,
None of us
because you're all
read
lawyers.
anything. Yeah. And suddenly you get 7 different opinions coming. Oh, you better know you're fucking up. We got to change this clause. And nobody fucking knew what a record deal was. So my whole thing was, look, you know, we have agents and lawyers here. They're the vets. Let them take care of it. None of us know what the fuck we're doing. Nobody's read a record contract. But suddenly you got 7 lawyers that think they know what they're doing. And that was a thing that I fixed at some point, like in the actual documentary. They're like, well, you going to fucking tell us what's going on? I'm like, no, I'll keep you informed. And it was because I realized I did that too much. You know, I'm fucking, why does Tony Montana need to be reading my movie contract with Miramax? There's nothing there. But he can like create things and even put doubt in my mind. Look at this clause right here. It just like, it became a thing where I realized there's a point at which a leader goes into a back room, gets the deal signed, slams it down on the table in front of his guys and says, congratulations, it's done. Let's go get a beer. And they need to see that. So the second time around, I fixed that. I fixed that fuck up. And kind of that's what I did. And,
where they obviously filmed that really long, uncomfortable scene in the thing where you told them like, no, I'm not going to inform you.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to inform you, but I'm not asking your opinion.
Yes, and it was because of that. Once you ask a guy's opinion, he feels like he needs to have one. Nobody said, you know, hey, I don't fucking.
What does the attorney say? What does the actual attorney say?
Yeah. So I mean, there was all kinds of things like that. But again, you could literally take that situation and put it almost like 2 gears coming together. It happened all the time with everyone, individually, 2s and 3s, all of us, 5 of us. There was so much going on. There was so much work to do that I looked at it like whatever the problem was in front of me, fix it, move on. Keep the air in the sails.
That's execution
keep the
skills.
ship moving forward. Yeah, but what I didn't realize, you know, my biggest mistake was?
I'm actually very curious to this.
Not realizing that when a man is chuffed and feels disrespected, that's a fucking malignant cancer that grows. I should have taken them out to dinner, told them how important they were, how great their story was, talked them in every time me or the guys had a rub with them. And I didn't. It was one of the things that I wasn't paying attention. Mark Wahlberg, I think, was in my life for that reason. He and I were basically the only 2 guys with entourages in Hollywood at the time. His got along like a house on fire. Mine, there was just fucking infighting everywhere. And I didn't know how he did it, but I suspect how he did it was because he knew that little trick. You can't allow things to fester. Guys will have backroom discussions. They'll get angrier and angrier and angrier about it. It doesn't go away unless you cut it out like a fucking cancer.
Or address it, which they do show that long scene there where you make Tony speak up. You know, he's sitting there, you know, in the corner and you pulled him out. I mean, you did do that.
Yeah, I did.
But I mean,
that wasn't the same thing. That was don't be a pussy.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. But at the same time, you had all those guys in there doing the thing. They all had their opinion. They all had stakes in the game too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I get that, but I one of the things I was thinking about, like, when you look at that thing, do you recognize that guy? I mean, when you watch that now, do you recognize your 24-year-old self?
Oh yeah, I almost know exactly what was in my head.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But I mean, like,
I lived through this. I went through all this. There are some time, because they fucked with the timeline and created their own timeline here. I find myself getting confused as to what exactly was happening at the time. Because they did this thing where they showed the band making money, and Jimmy's putting money in his thing. And we're talking to our accountant. It looks like we're like rich now. And
but it looks
then
like you
they
got like
played that
$1,500
scene.
bucks. But yeah.
Then they played that scene where I'm like, fucking talk, Tony. And he's like, can we borrow against the money? And it makes it look like the whole band is like, fuck you. You know, like, we're rich now.
It does make
and you
you
can
look
go
like
fuck
said that.
It completely happened the opposite, right? Here's this is something we should talk about. Here's one of the things they did, which I guess you could say angry about, was they didn't provide enough context. Whatever agenda they had, everything was to service that, and it was a false agenda, in my opinion. Here's what was happening at that time. We had lost a movie deal and a record deal. We were trying to resurrect them both, and I'm not sure where we were in terms of record deal, but we got a bigger record deal than we got a movie deal. We got a 5-album deal with Atlantic Records, who's the biggest label in the United States, biggest label in the world. And but then the movie got cut down to less than half, right? I was doing it for $6 million, but I had my cast. Right? Now, we were all excited about that, but we had hired Mark and Tony as the fucking managers of the band and just figured out that they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Like,
yeah, how did that happen?
Well, that happened because of Mark, right? Mark Wahlberg, his manager was this guy named Steve Levinson. And Lev was his, like, fucking high school buddy. They grew up together in Boston, and he had a real aptitude for it. I think he manages Mark to this very day. And we just thought, like, oh, well, we had such faith in our friends, you know? We can do it too. You guys manage the band.
Yeah,
that's
a tough lesson to learn.
They were so fucking bad at it. And in the documentary, they did everything they could to make it look like they were working as our managers, when that just really wasn't true. Every guy in the band, we talked about it in conversations that weren't filmed, that we have to seek professional management. These guys don't know what they're doing. It was like a mistake, and we kind of felt bad about it at one point. We're like, we kind of put too much on their plate. They're supposed to be doing their fucking documentary. And what they really did was book a rehearsal space. We loaded in. We would jam and rehearse, and they would just interview us afterwards for the documentary. And all the guys were super fucking pissed. That's why it appears like in the documentary where they all suddenly come onto my evil side in order to continue to punish the documentarians, which makes no sense. These guys were telling our story. They were our friends. There was nothing that we did that tried to insult or punish them or anything. We just made a mistake, hired them as managers when we shouldn't have. They also didn't provide the outcome for that little story, which was what we did eventually get a record deal. And we all pitched in and gave the documentarians money. The whole band did, $12,500. And we made damn sure that they knew it wasn't for their managerial skills. It was a donation to their documentary to keep that going. You know, so there was the amount of goodwill by us that was given to them is almost incalculable. I mean, there's things like they needed flights to France. Okay, that was pretty expensive, but the entire time they were there, they didn't spend $1 because that was all me,
right?
And CB. They needed to be on set to film behind the scenes of the movie. Well, maybe they paid for their flights to get out there, but for that fucking 3 or 4 months, they were staying with us. Every meal paid, every drink paid, access to set. The amount of kind of infrastructure and savings plus access we gave them built this thing. That's why they have it. And to suggest that we somehow tortured these guys, or especially I did in the catbird seat, tortured them the entire time. And another thing is, they managed, without saying it, to make people think that I hired them to do this.
I was curious about that because I thought that was sort of, I mean, I
You must have
vaguely
known.
remember that there was a mythology behind that. Like, oh no, he came and approached us. And I was like, oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Oh man, where do you remember where and who you heard that
Right
from?
at the beginning.
No, this is their fucking idea.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I'm
It's not that. It's just like that. I'm just saying that's the mythology that
Well,
sort
that's
of
the
was going on.
mythology after it came out because
Well,
it's-
and
I
during
mean,
the time when
like
they pitched
imagine,
it, I mean, like,
imagine this, Frank. You're me. You're walking
Yeah.
down the street. You meet some, person. I saw your documentary last night.
oh yeah, I can imagine
Yeah, you
because
can imagine because I'm going. That's not my fucking doc. Who the fuck would do that to themselves? You know.
Well,
it's the oddest thing. There's all these extremes at both ends. It's like people think it's my documentary, but they don't think who the fuck would actually do that and release it.
Mhm.
Like there's got to be some questions in
right.
there.
And when I say the mythology behind it is more like from those guys to me was like that was that was sort of the word around the campfire. That's all I'm saying. Like I don't doubt it. Like that would be awfully dumb of you to do that.
No,
I mean, it was not a great idea in the first place
Well,
to do
I mean,
it.
but
Period.
I'll tell you what. If it was my idea, we would have taken some profit participation, and me and the band from the very beginning.
Maybe some of the rest of
didn't
us
do
would have
that.
made some money.
I know you guys. Have you been paid back yet? Anything? No. Okay. Well,
Dude, they have. I have not talked to those guys in 20 years.
no, me neither. Since they kind of left our lives, and a year later, this thing came out.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, again, there was a big falling out on a bunch of different parties, during that time. I think it was about the time that you guys were all living out with Westy, and then something happened there where it all sort of exploded.
I think Westy, do you remember how much Westy invested?
I have no
He was
idea.
a big investor in it.
I think, more than likely. I mean, I know. I mean, that was the other thing is I looked at the credits, and so Todd, who at the time, we had an equal partnership in the investment we did. I don't know.
Put up all the money and have an equal partnership with some other.
Because he just didn't have the money at the time, and he paid me back.
Oh, he did. So
Yeah,
he eventually choked up.
He eventually choked up his
Okay.
half.
Okay.
No, he didn't do anything
So
wrong.
he was like, "Cover me on this," and we'll
Yeah, he
hold
didn't.
hands.
He didn't
Yeah.
have the cash at the time, and we did that back and forth to each other for a long time until it worked out. But he ends up with a producer credit. So I think he either added to a stake or he was doing work for them. John West is listed as a producer on it,
Westy, I
amongst a
think,
couple
put in
others.
50. I think he put in 50.
And then I've got a special thanks, but I mean, okay, so what?
Special thanks and no
kind of
go.
a little bit like I mean, I'm not exactly. I was kind of like hoping that it wasn't on there. I'm like, oh, I might, because the problem with it is like I just felt bad after I was done. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
This is, I mean, and again, I think part of it is like I think a lot of those friendships had broken up. But I also like the other part about it is look, I look at that film and okay, so it's you, CB, Gordo, Jimmy, Taylor, that group. 2 of them are gone.
Yeah. No.
CB's gone. Jimmy's gone.
Yeah.
They didn't survive this.
I think that's why.
And
I'm
and
addressing
Tony
this
and
now because somebody else is about to be gone.
yeah, and Tony and Mark, they were also at the beginning equal parts of that friendship group.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone.
Yeah.
I
haven't seen either of them. Let me ask you something. At the end of the film, they basically suggest that I fucked up everything, betrayed everybody, nobody could take it anymore, and all my friends and family basically abandoned me. Now, you're obviously an example of that. Well, at least one person that didn't.
No, I think what happened, I mean, clearly it's not the case. I mean, you and Gordo are still close friends. Taylor is your brother. You guys are still friends. We're still friends. When we haven't spent as much time around each other over the last couple of years, but you called me up and, it's like we're back to normal. Yeah. And it's just, but those guys are gone. And that's the other part that's the other part that I think that people should also realize about this business too, is that, you and I are both 25 years deep. Yeah. We came out here right about the same time. Everybody that I started with is gone. Everybody who really wanted to do what we were doing they're gone.
Yeah.
You're still at it.
Yeah.
I'm still at it to whatever level of success it is, and the fact is, and it's not a winning or losing, but my
It's like
life
yeah.
but my life is a better life because I get to keep doing what I'm doing. Now, whether that's chasing windmills and it's a quixotic adventure for me, for you, but the fact is I'm happy. Are you happy?
Sometimes, I feel like I have a lot more to do, and right now is not a good time to ask that question. We got a friend, Frank and I, and the whole kind of the crew here. We got a friend that's dying in hospice, so we're over there every day, a couple hours, sitting with him, and he's going away, powering down. So now is not the time to discuss happiness, but I would say, in a general sense, man, I kind of look at my life and I think about all the shit that happened and all the friends I have and all the, the family and everything. And at the end of the day, yeah, it was the two guys that couldn't hold on long enough. It was the two guys that lost faith at the end of the day. And I can see why. They thought, when Columbine came out and banned us from theaters, they knew their movie was linked to mine, bootstrapped. And if Boondock was going to fail, which they had every reason to believe it would, their film was going to fail. So they had that moment to make their choice, and they made the choice they made. I can see it. I can even... No, I can't forgive it. I can't forgive disloyalty. It's one of the only things I can't forgive. But I can see how hard they tried. I can see how long they lasted. But they lost faith at the end of the day, chose their own path. And if they had chosen the other one, what do you think would have happened if they had stayed true, told the real story?
I think they'd probably still be. They'd still be in the business on some level. I mean, I don't know. You never know.
You know what? I was amazed by when I watched the documentary last night. They only put like 4 minutes of behind the scenes footage of the movie. That's what every fan wants to see. The behind the scenes of the movie. Now, 2 hours, 4 fucking minutes.
Yeah, but that wasn't their angle. That wasn't what they were interested in doing.
Once they changed, but that was what they were interested in doing the whole time. They had to be, by the way, present and taken care of and filming every fucking day on that set. That was their, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. That's what they wanted more than fucking anything. They knew they were going to get all that behind the scenes. We were doing the album. We had the Atlantic paid for this fucking awesome barn place in Massachusetts, but the film, that's fucking hundreds of people working on a set, and these documentarians, they had to get out of the way of everybody. They had to find little tables off in the corner to get their shit and film done, and and we were giving them that access. That was the most important thing to them, and they got it before. And I just heard about this the other day, didn't even remember it. Don Carmody kicked them off set, banned them from set. I don't remember that happening, but I know that they were on set up until at least way more than half the shoot, because we found the dailies the other day, and some of those days are in their footage. So they got most of it, But I mean, imagine that. Boondock fans being able to watch a documentary of the actual making, all the shit that led up to it, all the uncomfortable stuff, but in a truthful way, and watch how we did it. We first timers, no nepotism. We didn't know anyone in the fucking business. There was nothing that gave us an advantage except the material. And doing it for the first time after getting them both, losing them both, resurrecting them, and we actually pulled it off. That story is in their, 200, 300 hours of footage. And it's a shame that it might never be told or can't be told. Or
it won't be.
You don't think so?
No.
Somebody's got the fucking footage. I wonder if they even own it anymore.
I mean, if so, well, never mind. I don't want to
they'd have to admit some shit before they...
Well, I mean, the other thing is too, then you also... did this thing make any money? You can buy it or you can watch it for free. I mean, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I watched it on YouTube. I refused to pay for it.
But again, as an investor, I would be a little annoyed that it's on YouTube for free when I would prefer if somebody was paying $2.99 for it on Amazon Prime. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. I doubt they own the rights to it anymore. I bet it's somebody else. So maybe you could go and approach them.
I would crack a deal with the person that owns that footage or the rights to it.
The other thing
tomorrow, because that's when you do something like, all right, here's the 300 hours. Go find some fucking editor that I don't know to just tell the fucking real story, but put in all the shit that fans might want to see now.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it, though, unless you could really find it. In fact, it might be all just sitting in a storage unit somewhere. Who knows? But I have a question, though.
Go.
So you watch this thing, and you watch yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any regrets?
Oh, God. Tons of them, like all the mistakes that were made. The biggest one is I should have tucked them in every time and made sure.
Yeah, but I mean, just in general.
Emotionally. In general, yeah, I might have wanted to go with New Line Cinema and Mike DeLuca instead of Harvey.
Okay.
That was probably a mistake.
What about you? Like you as you're watching yourself and the decisions you made at 24, if you could go back and tell that 24-year-old, what would you tell them?
That thing I just told you, you got to make sure you can't let this shit fester. Yeah, it's almost like reading the 48 Laws of Power. I observed some of them without knowing what they were back then, but I missed like 18 of them. So I would go back and tell myself that type of stuff. Version. I would tell myself that kind of stuff, and also to make a black book, keep everybody's number. I've met so many people, had their contact information, lost it. Also to just really only give out the amount of necessary information, and don't ask too many people's opinions unless they show an aptitude for something where I've decided, all right, I can now listen to your opinion because you know shit. But yeah, like I said, that documentary brings back so many fucking memories. Like, for instance, in Cannes, they simply left out the context. We went to the screening and got a standing ovation at Cannes in a packed screening.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went to the fucking, the offices that of the movie house that paid for our movie franchise films, and we're treated like given no information. Our fucking poster wasn't even up. They were selling other stupid movies that got like 12 people. We were just confused about what the fuck was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And they never even really said it. They were just, they almost made like it was a terrible screening. It was a completely rocking screening.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was that there was shenanigans going on the big mucky muck business side of things that we had no idea about at the time and didn't even find out until 5 years later, and I'm barred by a non-disclosure agreement as a result of a lawsuit against those same people that paid for our film. But what happened at Cannes was bullshit. They didn't want us there because they had done something. And we did not know what it was. We had such a fucking great response. We thought, all right, we've made it. Let's go. Because Cannes is basically about selling foreign territories. You want Italy and Germany and the UK, buy your movie on, to put in theaters, to do on video rental, home video, and stuff like that. And then eventually DVD sales at the time. And so we just thought, all right, we got a fucking hit. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And as many times happened with Boondock, they simply did nothing and didn't tell us why or give us any information. That happened many times. And when that happens on your film, there are basically very corrupt people making millions in the background, and you have no fucking clue. That's about all I can say on that. But even to take a situation like that, because those guys knew what happened there. They were there. To take a situation like that and rewrite it as we failed at Cannes.
Right. But there's that axe to grind. That's that edit.
Yeah.
let's not show any joy. There's
Oh, yeah.
no joy. There's no joy in this movie. Let's just make sure of that.
No.
We're going to keep it grinding down. Yeah.
It's also, I mean, almost all those moments where I got angry on film, said and did the wrong thing, the most arrogant, the most insulting, the stupidest things I said, those were basically the exception. What the fuck is going on with this goddamn camera?
It's trying to get to you because you're so beautiful.
Those moments were basically the exception. And I think that if people knew the 10,000 times I was hit on the head before I finally broke and showed that side, that anger, they would probably kind of nod their heads and understand it. Like, hey, shit, you can only try to push this kid in your direction so many times before he fucking finally breaks. And they just put together an entire film that was the breaks, with their own timeline and weird stuff like interviewing themselves.
Yeah, well, they wanted to be. I mean, Mark much less than Tony, but Tony's always wanted to be the star of the show. So that's
Tony's always been. All right, let's talk about that. The thing we trusted Mark. Mark was kind of our kind of rational, reasonable guy.
Yeah,
he was from Maine. Me and Taylor
normal
were New Englanders as well.
Mm-hmm.
Normal guy, talented guy. Tony was a bit of a weirdo, but we liked him because of that. He was kind of not boring, Like I remember when I first started writing my script on the door at Sloan's. Like, all your friends are like, "Oh, you and your little script." The fucking guy that
can't make it.
yeah. The guy that washes my clothes is writing a script. But Tony, I would let him read straight out of the notebook, and he loved the prose of writing. Like I remember this one conversation we had. He goes, you said chests exploding. Because I love that visual. It paints pictures in my mind of a chest exploding. How would you pull that off if you had to shoot it? And I'm like, probably like a squib in front and back going off at the same time, kind of at an angle. And he was like, oh, that's going to be beautiful. So Tony was a guy you could kind of creatively collaborate with. It was interesting. And it was one of the
Sounds
first
like he was
ones to kind of
supportive.
get it. Yeah, we were all supportive. Even in year 2, I'm dying to find this. We can't find this yet. Maybe I haven't spelunked deep enough into the archive, but there's like a 2-minute, like a minute and a half or a 2-minute trailer that they did year 2, right? Again, to raise money.
Right.
And that one was triumphant because in year 2, we resurrected both deals. And the end of it is me going down the church, raising my arms like, we're shooting a fucking movie. We were all so excited, and there was so much work to do, and there was electricity in the air. And they played the whole thing in their documentary like, oh, Duffy took less than half of the Miramax deal. And then I'm just suddenly shooting a movie. Like, that was it. Like, somehow a deal just came up inexplicably, and a record deal just came up, but it sucks, They just kind of painted it with the blackest of brushes, which something that was a huge fucking triumph for all of us. We were all fucking like, yes.
Well, if anybody also, and anybody else out there, if you knew how hard it was to carve out just something tiny in this business, to actually get to make a feature that you wrote is, the odds are astoundingly against you. It's nuts. That's why that's why I said they're all gone.
That's one of the things that people don't know that me and you do is in this business, you have to work your ass off.
I wish I knew
to
I'd work
get
harder.
the opportunity to work your ass off. Think of the fucking year and a half we put in just to get to that set and start filming that movie. We worked every fucking day, finding conversations on the phone, agents, lawyers. It got it taken away from us. We got it back. We worked more to be able to do it than we did on it. Because when we worked on it, that's the gold, man.
Yeah. It's too bad. On some levels, like disloyal or not. I hope those guys are okay. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've always kind of wondered, like, I hope Tony is okay somewhere, that he's safe. I'm not sure he is. I don't know what Mark is doing. I hope the same for I know he has a family. I hope they're okay, you know. But I think the other part is too, is like, okay, great. You guys made this documentary, but they shot themselves in the foot just as much as they shot you.
Oh.
Because you kind of look at it and it's pretty apparent that what they were doing was effectively a hatchet job. You know, you can see it watching it. And
yeah, but watching it, it looks like I deserve it.
No, but I mean, again, this is the joke I was telling you, you know, when we were on the phone, that if somebody ever approaches you and goes, hey, we really want to do a documentary, we want to follow you, we're going to do this, your answer is fucking no. Never
not
do that.
Jesus Christ.
Because no matter what, it's editing. It's editing. And if you have enough footage, an editor can make you look unbelievably. A movie is made in the editing bay. You know, like, don't do that ever again. Not. I know you've learned your lesson. You're fine.
Yeah. I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Jesus, this thing has haunted me for 25
years. And the thing that sucks for me too is, you know, as friends of all of you guys, because it also doesn't make Taylor look great. It doesn't make Laura Gordo look great. You know, it doesn't make CB look great. You know, and these people can't defend themselves. And just like, come on.
Yeah, they got us all. But I mean, the thing was, I mean, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall, because that idea of, you know, I mean, who the fuck was going to hire them to do a documentary after this? Like some actor, I want my story told. Let's get those guys from Overnacted. I mean, I don't know why they didn't think of that. Like, it's our first project. It's not our last. It's our first one. We might as well,
you
know, at least level an eye towards the next one. We want to get hired again. We want to do shit, you know.
Well, get out there and, you know, be able to raise money to do a different story on their own.
There you go.
You know, just something else entirely. You know, I know they both had aspirations to do narrative, not documentary.
Oh yeah, we talked about the projects they wanted to do.
Yeah,
Tony was kind of, this project's weird, but Mark had some good ideas. Yeah. I was like, you know what?
I was like, Todd wanted to do that too. You know, and we shot a short film together.
Oh yeah,
yeah, we did.
Oh.
You know,
how did it work out?
It worked out okay. I mean, like, look, it was just one of those ones. It was fine. It could have been better. Could have been worse. You know, but it was, look, we got one done, and that's the thing. We got one done.
That was my thing the whole time with this. I was like, if we get these 3 things done, because they're all our first projects, if we get those done, it almost doesn't matter if they're super successful or not. We got something done in the business. I can tell you from personal experience, that's really all you need to do. Because even if you fail after that, people keep hiring you because they're like, oh, that's the guy that.
Well, and I think the other part is too, is like, I mean, there's lots of very successful people in the world who are not super bright, but they just got the doors open on the business.
Yeah.
I've worked for a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know, and you just go, okay, well, you got it done. And everybody who's in the background bitching about it, you didn't.
You know, I remember once I met this producer who was on the Paramount lot, and he listed his movies for me, and every last one of them was a super expensive flop that lost money. And I wanted to go, how do you have offices on this lot? Why haven't they fired you like a long time ago? Everything you made lost money, and a lot of it. You know, just like a list of failures. But that's just kind of the way it is in this business.
I think it's all in every business.
Oh, it's the producer that, you know, he can get those actors. He can get that director, you know, even though what he made.
He's got yeses on his resume, or she's got yeses on their resume. You know, and they go, okay, well, somebody else already took the hit for hiring them. So, you know, it's that first one. The first one is the hardest. Just nobody wants to say yes to somebody new.
First cut is the deepest. All right, I'll tell you what, guys. We're gonna drill down deep into the doc over the next few months. Have more people on that were there that can tell you about it. We're gonna start going kind of behind the scenes. I'm gonna get 25 years of shit off my chest. We're gonna drill down on this. All right, go ahead and watch the Boondockers' last video. Stay tuned for the next ones. We're gonna be diving deep into this. Subscribe. I recently did a deep dive into the Boondock archive, and I found something that I thought had been lost to history. The raw, unfiltered dailies from Boondock Saints 1.
Fucker!
Every frame of film shot from every take we did straight from the cameras.